Hey guys, so we recently read a book called Dracula vs. Hitler by Sheane Duncan. And you know what? When you hear the title Dracula vs. Hitler, you're like, oh, that sounds fun.
It's very eye-catching.
Yeah. So you pick up this book and you're like, oh, this is gonna be fun, silly, epic, campy, like just balls to the wall, insane.
Thunderdome-esque,
like Dracula in the heart of Berlin, Nazi vampire monstrosities roaming the streets, and Dracula is the only one who can put them down.
Yeah, you don't get that.
This book is so far in the other direction that you're like, what the fuck, man?
The very first thing you need to know is that the novel Dracula exists in this world.
Yes.
Bram Stoker exists in this world. He somehow, I guess, spoke to Jonathan Harker and Mina, and they told him their story, and then he really, went to town on, rewriting it, and you're constantly reminded in this book that the story you know is not true. That's not how this happened. The problem is, the more you think about it, the more it falls apart. Okay, so Jonathan Harker in this book is the grandson of Jonathan Harker and Mina. Lucy, who I guess is older than Jonathan, but I would say give or take 5 years, is the daughter of Van Helsing, who canonically Van Helsing is older in Dracula because he needs to be old enough that he's the teacher of the doctor. So it's just how late in life?
Yeah, he should be 200 years old going by, because it's been 40 years at least if you assume that,
he should be pushing 90 at his youngest.
Yeah, right? But not even.
And then there's the fact that the book starts with Van Helsing being oh, I went and I retrieved his body and he was healing, and instead of destroying him, even though we've spent the entire time in Dracula trying to destroy him, we couldn't destroy him because science, and so I left him.
Yeah.
It's just oh my god, why? There's a lot of moments where you really have to suspend your disbelief to get yourself to the point where it's going to be Dracula fighting some Nazis. And what I thought is why are we even trying to explain this?
Yeah, just let it happen.
Just it's start the book with man, this sucks. Let's wake up Dracula to fight the Nazis. You don't have to give me 80 pages of backstory that to ground it. Your book is called Dracula versus Hitler.
I'm here for Dracula and Hitler.
Versus Hitler.
It's okay. It's fine. We've already suspended.
Yeah,
we're good. But no, it's a slog just to get to them waking up Dracula. And then, okay, so the book starts where Jonathan Harker has been sent by the British, Jonathan Harker, grandson, has been sent by British intelligence with his Scottish explosive expert Renfield.
Who might actually be British because it switches.
And they're going to help the insurgency in Romania against the Nazis. Through them, they'll have more access to supplies and blah, 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 blah. Renfield hits his head and it does some brain damage, and he can still explode shit real well, but he only speaks in dirty limericks
or songs,
unless he's talking about explosives, in which case he can formulate full sentences.
And the one thing that we agree on about this book is that the limericks are the best part. The group that they hook up with is Van Helsing and Lucy Van Helsing and some other people. During that day, the Nazis have gotten a little bit more intense with the village, and they've killed a bunch of people, and the mayor was killed, and Lucy's lover was killed. And so the night that Jonathan arrives, Lucy's just I need a distraction. Hey you, new guy.
And Jonathan, who was already this woman is beautiful and strong.
Fire red hair.
And that mouth on her, it's so dirty, but I kind of like it.
She doesn't know her place, and I'm into it.
Yeah, it's a problem. And so she sleeps with him, and then he obsesses over her, his beloved. Yeah, his beloved. We are going to be together. And she repeatedly tells him no. To his face, not subtle, this is never going to happen.
And the thing is, because they are working in this tight team, she has to be somewhat nice to him because they're working together, and there's that camaraderie of being like partners in arms. And so she's just oh, okay. I think we finally found common ground. I think this is gonna work. And anytime that she says something nice to him or congratulates him or says, that's a good idea, he thinks, this is it. This is the moment that she's gonna fall in love with me.
And you're just like, oh my god, stop it.
And this does not stop until another hot woman looks at him. And this other attractive woman looks at him and is like, hey, you want to get it on? And Jonathan's like, Lucy, who? Like,
yeah, I found my beloved. And you're like, dude, like, no.
Yeah, you don't know if, like, his obsession with Lucy is supposed to be endearing because it was not.
It was very traumatizing. And of course, Lucy immediately takes one look at Dracula and she's like, I want to bang that guy right there.
And Van Helsing is like, oh no. Okay, Lucy. Lucy is probably like the worst part of this book in a way because she's more insidious.
Yeah. So she comes in like, I'm the strong woman, like I don't need a man, I'm capable, I want people to see me more as more than just like a pretty face.
And okay, but the thing is, she's been in command of this rebel cell. And all of the people, she says multiple times in the book that her people respect her. And she's constantly saying, like, they're used to taking orders from me. They trust me. And then she's also like, everybody sees me as just this, like, hot woman. And I'm expected to just be in the kitchen and blah, 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 blah. I want people to fear me. Like, fear is, like, better than, like, coveting.
Respect. Yeah. On top of that, she clearly believes that she's the only strong, beautiful, capable woman out there in the entire world of World War II, and just
there are women in her cell. Like, there is literally this one woman who was probably the best character in the entire book, who works in the castle where the Nazis have their base. As a maid, she risks her life listening into all of these conversations, and when she gets caught, she makes it out.
Yeah, like, she's like, fuck this shit.
She gets a bicycle, she just, like, they never catch her.
And she takes no shit from anyone, including Dracula. Like, she's just like, fuck you.
And, like, Lucy's just like, I'm the only good one. And I'm just like, oh my god, you're like, what are you doing?
Like, it's very much a strong female character from a guy's perspective of what the ultimate woman should be.
Like, she's strong and feisty, but at the same time, she's very loving to her father. And, like, you're just like, oh, she's good in a firefight, but she cooks every night. It's just like, it comes off as very flimsy.
Yeah, like, she's like what you'd expect somebody who hasn't thought about this too hard to write.
And her big scene.
Oh my god, her big scene is the most just...
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're storming this castle because this is it. This is like their last-ditch attempt because the Nazis have captured Dracula. Understand, up until this point, we've just totally, completely skipped over the fact that all they're doing is they're picking a target, they're exploding it. And they're picking a target, and they're sending Dracula in, and they're exploding it. Nothing happens for the, like, middle 300 pages of...
We'll rewind a bit, but
but that's basically Dracula's been captured, and so they're trying to get him out because we don't want the Nazis to have, like, vampirism. So they're trying to get in, and they have this little tiny forest, and so they're trying to be as sneaky as possible. They've gotten in past, like, a couple checkpoints, and there's 2 guards up ahead, and Lucy's just like, I got this. The one guy's like, why? We can just, like knife them. That worked last time. She's like, no, I got this. And she strips and she walks out and she's just like, she like does her makeup so she looks ghostly and she just kind of walks out like, hey boys.
And everybody, like, including people in her posse, are like, the fuck is this woman doing? Like,
and it doesn't work. And then she has to be rescued. And then she turns around and she's like, yeah, I did my part. And you're just like, what is happening? Like, up until this point, she has been a, like, badass in combat.
Yeah, holds her own in a firefight, no problems, no questions asked.
You would easily see her being able to sneak up behind someone and, like, slit their throat. Like, this is not, like...
rocket science.
This is like, she has shown it. It's just all of a sudden it's like, no, we're gonna have this empowering moment where she accepts her sexuality. There's never been a point when she has, like, not accepted her sexuality.
Yeah. And you're like, who thought this was a good idea? Yeah, like, who let this through the editing process?
You have proved that you are a, like, really good strategist.
This is not good strategy. This is stupid. By the end of the book, you're just like, this woman, I can't. So the majority of this book is literally them being like, we need to sabotage shit. We can't do it in town because that will affect the locals. So let's go on a road trip and we will sabotage some shit. They pull up, they're like, that looks good. They blow it up and move on. Or they pull up, they're like, blow that shit up, but wait, there's some innocent people inside. Dracula, go! And he goes into the building.
I choose you.
Yeah. And he goes into the building and he murders a bunch of people and mostly gets the innocent people out, and then they blow it up and then they move on. And that is like 2/3 of the book.
And so what you're dealing with during this is Jonathan Harker being, I'm the specialist, I'm the leader, I was trained by the British, and everybody else being like, we've been here fighting for 10 years. You know, like calm down.
Sit down.
You can get us explosives and Renfield can explode things, but like...
That's all you're doing, really.
That's what you're here for. Dracula being like, I'm such a monster. I killed so many innocent people. I killed your namesake, Lucy.
Yeah, and he just mopes the entire book. In his own book, entitled Dracula versus Hitler, there is very little Dracula and there is very little Hitler. And Dracula, like, I can't really think of a decision that he makes that actually, like, furthers the narrative.
They point him at stuff and he's just like, well, I guess I can do that.
Yeah.
Then, of course, there's Hitler, who shows up in the second half of the book through diary entries where they're written in third person. He refers to himself as Herr Wolf. It's just completely tedious because he's just like, today I watched Snow White and I want to meet Walt Disney. That man knows what he's doing. Ate this for dinner.
Fucked a prostitute, got the clap. Like, Heinrich Himmler said this today. Like, it's so boring.
And like, I get that you're going for that he is so far removed from what's going on. Like, he's like in his own head. You're trying to like it's the whole like the horrors that he has caused, but he doesn't even register as horrors because he's a monster. And I'm just like, but I'm here to watch Dracula and Hitler fight.
Like, that's what I wanted. The book kind of like slowly works its way to an ending. Hitler finds out about Dracula when they go to rescue their comrades on a train, and they kind of fight the Nazis, and they accidentally get some video of Dracula. The SS picks it up and sends it off to Hitler, and he's like, I want one of those. I want a Dracula, you better get it for me.
I want it now, Daddy!
And they're like, okay, sure, we'll work on that. And they go through like several attempts where they try to capture Dracula, and they fail just like miserably.
And they finally capture Dracula, and they decide, okay, we can't trust Dracula to make little vampires for us, but if we can get him to like just one person, then we can use that one person to make our vampire armies. And Hitler's like, oh, I want to be a vampire because, you know, the power of the vampire shouldn't just be given to some plebeian, it should be to me, and I'm the only one who can, like, keep the Nazi empire going, and this way I can control it for centuries to come, and blah, 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 blah.
They capture Dracula, and Hitler's like, okay, I'm hopping a train to Romania now, see you later. And so he shows up in Romania, and Dracula's in a cage, and you know, Hitler's like, ooh, this is a fascinating specimen, and they sit there and they watch him all day like he's an animal in the zoo, and Dracula is just like, fuck all y'all. They're like, okay, so let's get him to bite like a weak-willed specimen, and they had captured Renfield, and they're like, so they put Renfield in the cage, and, you know, Dracula and Renfield just kind of like chill out.
The thing about Renfield is the moment when I realized that he was not a character with a, like, perspective. He wasn't keeping a diary. I'm like, he gonna die.
Yeah, right.
Like, and he was the only one of the main characters who died.
Yeah. So, I mean, shit goes wrong, and eventually Dracula accidentally bites one of the Nazis during his escape attempt and doesn't manage to kill him. And then Hitler runs away with that Nazi, and he's like gonna get the guy to bite him, but he doesn't trust him, so he's like, you know, hold that thought, and then they like kill the Nazi vampire, and then Hitler escapes.
And Lucy almost dies, and then Dracula turns Lucy, and Van Helsing is like, what have I done?
Yeah, and that's basically the end.
And then the end of the book is Lucy telling Dracula, I'm hungry. And I'm just like, I don't care.
Yeah. Thank God this is over. This was way too long. It was like a 500-page book, I think.
Yeah, it was pretty long. And I'm really upset because the premise sounded like so much fun, and coming off of the high that is The Strain is Gone, I was like, yeah, let's have some vampires and Nazis.
Like, I wanted Dracula in the heart of Berlin.
Yeah.
Fucking shit
and
up.
the other thing I wanted Dracula to be monstrous. Like, when they started going the route of like, oh, you know, I'm like misunderstood.
I want to reform.
I'm just like, no, I'm here for two monsters in the Thunderdome, just like going at each other. Like, I was thinking, oh my god, like, maybe we're gonna get a Mecha Hitler.
Yeah.
Like,
that was the hope, right?
like, and it was just, yeah.
It was boring. Like, it was painfully boring. It was irritating. It was not what you wanted.
It felt like they probably came up with the title before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It needed, like, somebody to go in and be like, you're just repeating yourself over and over again. Like, let's cut some of this out. And, like, the Nazis are very abstract in this book. You're like, yeah, okay, they're fighting Nazis, but it's really like they're just fighting a local force.
And I mean, it started out pretty intense, like the sequence where the Nazis roll into town, and it's horrifying and it's awful, and I was like, okay, like, this is what I'm here for. And then you don't get that anymore because you get taken away from the town because they go off on their road trip because they don't want to harm the town. But by doing that, it becomes so disconnected from their emotional, like, grounding.
Yeah, because you had this one guy who comes in and he's just like, pick a number. No, I said pick a fucking number, dude. And so he's like, finally, he's just like, fine, I'll pick one for you. And he picks a number, and then he yells out to the guys in the street who have all the townspeople kind of corralled, all right, you're gonna kill every 5th person, so get to it. And so it's just like this massacre in the square. It's just like completely random. It's like a 1, 2, 3, 4 bang, like, through the square. And you're like, holy shit, that's fucking terrifying. Like, this guy is a monster. I'm so excited to watch them take this guy down. And then he just fades into the background.
You never expect any of your main characters to get hurt, because since they're telling the story, obviously they're going to make it through to the end. And I mean, you could have done it, like, letters could have stopped from a specific character, like Jonathan Harker's journal could have been cut off, the novel never was finished, but that never happened. And the other thing I noticed was each character has a very distinctive style, because you have the correspondence, you have the novel, you have the journal, but the styles start bleeding into each other as it felt like he wasn't focusing on each specific voice, and so everyone had a uniform like, there was a uniform voice by the end of the book, where, like, what started out as a journal entry kind of devolved into, like, novel prose.
Yeah.
The fact that Dracula as a novel succeeds so well always amazes me, just because it's written from letters and, like, diary entries. We talked about it in our I, Dracula review, about how, like, when this story was transferred into, like, IM and emails, it kind of loses a bit of stuff because no one's going to text in like
the middle
of a combat. And then here, what they try to do to get around that is they start jumping between the chapters. The chapters become really short because what he says he's done is he's cut journal entries in half to, like, create the narrative, like, structure.
Literally, yeah.
But then that gets super distracting because you get, like, 4 sentences from one character, and then all of a sudden you're in another style, and then they start blending in together. Like,
it's just, yeah, it's kind of wasted after a while. Like,
yeah.
It would have been nicer if he had just told the story from start to finish in one way.
Yeah.
It was a slog. It was a real slog. There were so many problems with it, and honestly, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone other than being like, hey, did you know there's a book called Dracula versus Hitler? If you ever hear about it, don't go look it up.
It was funny because I had friends who, like, texted me, it's like, you're reading Dracula versus Hitler? Man, that sounds awesome!
And you're like,
like,
no,
oh.
I don't want to break your heart. But
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I never thought I would say this, but if you want vampire Nazis, pick up Becoming Darkness.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that book was a mess, but it was, like, a hot mess in a kind of a fun way.
Yeah, or, like, you know, there's The Strain as your old classic.
Yeah, like...
Don't do this. Don't do this to yourself. But anyways, we did that for you, and now we're telling you exactly what we thought of it. We will see you guys for the rest of Vampire Month, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye! Bye.